Remain standing in honor of our veterans that are serving our country and those that have previously served our country. Thank you. Everyone, please turn off your cell phones or put it on vibrate, and anyone, if they have a hat on their head, please take it off for the duration of the meeting, unless it's for religious purposes. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson. Bucci. Christensen.
Here.
Condon.
Here.
DePietro. Fallon. Kinnon. Murphy. Nestor. Spatafora. Lucy.
Here. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes of the City Council meetings of May 17th, May 24th, and May 31st.
On Council Christensen's motion to approve the minutes, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next order of business.
Application for licensed private taxi cab, William J. Finn, 52A Fulton Street, Medford. Dennis O'Brien, 148 Neal Street, Malden. Nicholas Russo, 35 Essex Street, Malden.
On Council Anderson's motion, refer to license. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Papers referred to license.
Application for transfer of a Class 2 dealer's license, Automotive Repairs, Inc., 121 Beach Street, and Gary's Auto Sales, 160 Eastern Ave.
Refer to license?
On Council Anderson's motion, refer to license. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Papers referred to license.
Be hereby ordained that the revised ordinances of 1991 are hereby further amended regarding the public use of marijuana. Councilor Nestor.
On Council Connor's motion, refer to ordinance. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Papers referred to ordinance.
Ordered that the City Council proceed with hiring a treasurer collector. Councilor Fallon.
Council Fallon for the paper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to have this item on the docket in light of all of the discussions that, of course, we've been having with respect to the hiring or the creation of a CFO position. We all know that we've been struggling with this for some time, and I think that we can go back and have a discussion about hiring a treasurer at the same time that we're still having the discussions with the creation of a CFO position, specifically because there are some of us who feel that any CFO may not also be a treasurer, but may prefer a CFO to be a controller, for example. So we all already have a controller in place, and I'd like to bring this discussion back around so that we might begin the process for looking at hiring a treasurer.
Thank you, Council Fallon. Any comments? Councilor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the sponsor, I think it might make more sense, after we vote on the plan that I think is going to be taken up next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I'm just not sure if it's time-wise the right way to do it before we vote.
That's fine with me, actually. I just want to make sure that the item is something that people are also thinking about as we do look at that discussion. And I want to make sure that, and you know how I feel, Councillor, about this particular CFO position, and not really being adverse to it. But for myself as a councillor, I'd like the citizens to be able to take part in voting on this particular charter change. So that aside, while we're in these discussions, I would like to make sure that we are really truly thinking about, as we've been at impasse after impasse after impasse in committee on this, that we really start thinking again about the potential for hiring a treasurer again, while we are still working on looking at the creation of a CFO position. So however it has to happen, if we're moving this back into committee, that's fine with me. And if we're looking at voting on this subject to what's going to take place next week, I want the public to be aware that the initial discussion on the CFO position, which was scheduled as I understand, for this evening, which had to be moved up. I want to make sure that the public is aware that we're going to be having both of these discussions at the same time.
Move to table.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Council Christensen to table. Any other discussion? Seeing no other lights, we'll take a roll call to table.
Counselor Anderson.
Yes.
Bucci.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Condon.
Yes.
DePietro. Fallon.
Yes.
Murphy. Spatafora.
Yes.
Lucy.
Yes, paper's tabled. Next order of business.
Resolved that it is the sense of the City Council that the mayor review all unexecuted bond authorizations to assure that the city's priorities are being met. Councilor Fallon.
Council Fallon for the paper.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Yet again, another discussion that we've had here on the council at the time that we had looked at bonding for other types of projects in the community. We were knocked down another fire station, all knowing that this has been a long-term priority that we have to have another East Side fire station. Now it is imminent, really, where we have 2 fire stations in this community that are actually within our community walls, and then the 3rd fire station, which of course, as we all know, is in Revere. And that being said, I think as we had spoken with the mayor when he was here a few weeks ago, talking about the fact that he would be open to reprioritizing should we make some recommendations. I'd like to put out to you, councilors, for the special projects that you already have considered that we've been discussing, that maybe we go back to the table and look at some of the projects that we can put aside for the future and look at more imminent projects such as the East Side Fire Station, and then in addition, something of concern has been the schools. Whether it's the Linden School with the structural issues there, or the Salemwood School, where there was a meeting there this past week, where there are considerable structural issues. I think we need to look at the buildings that our children are in, the buildings that our employees are in, and maybe rethink how we have prioritized some of these projects. And I can tell you on the ground, in speaking with citizens, a recurring project that the citizens have been asking about is the East Side Fire Station. So I would like to ask this body to, bring this back so that we can discuss reprioritizing some of the unexecuted bonds that we have out there in order that we can look at spending some money on, again, those 2 particular items.
Thank you, Council Fallon. Just as a point of information, the East Side Fire Station Committee was put together by the mayor. The first meeting was last Thursday, which I thought was very productive. There was some ideas floated, outside the box a little bit, and there's another meeting scheduled for this Thursday. So there's still hope that something come about, and, as I said, some of the ideas that were floated out in the meeting were different and very creative. So, Councilor DePietro.
Thank you, Council President. Also, just as a point of information, some of the capital projects have already been started. Amherst Park tot lot has been started, and I know a couple of other ones have already been started, so I would assume that those would continue. We've got contracts and things have to be met, so I don't know how you prioritize that, but I guess if a project hasn't been started, you could probably discuss it, I guess.
Thank you, Councilor DePietro. Councilor Christensen.
Mr. President, through you to the sponsor, are you having this go to finance, or are you?
Yes, I'd like to go back to finance. Thank you.
Okay. The only concern I would have, it's along the line of what Councilor DePietro stated, and that is, we spent a lot of time during the past year on, I don't know if we want to go through them all, but McDonald's Stadium, Bike to the Sea, Linden Park, Cleveland Street, Todd Lot, Amherst Park, that's just one bond. But the thing I would be leery of is, these residents that have come out, we attended a meeting in Councilor Murphy's ward on Bike to the Sea just recently. of all of a sudden, doing a 360 when, a lot of the people that have put time into these projects, now have hope. Not saying that, we shouldn't adjust going forward, but right now, we don't really have any facts or costs or what's going to be involved, to site, a station. So I'm just wondering if it's a little premature for us to go back, and taking a look at projects that this body has vetted and has weighed in with residents on projects that we at this juncture don't know, what the particulars will be. I just don't know if it sends the right message.
Thank you, Councilor Christensen. Any other lights? Councilor Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to respond to that again, I'm putting it out to you all as the ward councilors who have your particular projects, some of whom have communicated that you'd be considering reprioritizing some of your projects in order that we can meet some of these more imminent needs. So, and I appreciate what you're saying, because we don't know where we're even going to have a site yet, or what site we're actually considering until this committee, continues to work on that for an East Side Fire Station right now. But I want to make sure that we're spending our money to be fixing existing problems right now, that being, of course, that we have no East Side Fire Station at the moment. And secondly, to have gone through the schools and knowing the significant problems that are taking place structurally with some of our schools, with our children are attending, and our teachers and administrators are attending, and the public is walking in and out of. I mean, if you took a look at the Salemwood School and saw the structural issues there, they're very, very concerning. And I think that we can probably look at speaking with Mr. Melanson and others to be able to get a dollar amount as to us to be able to fix those types of problems first as a capital improvement project. I mean, we voted against the meals tax, but it's here. It's something that certainly we can access, and I think, again, I'd like to have us take a look at go through that exercise, looking at some of how we're going to be able to come up with some money to handle what I consider, and the public certainly considers, especially the teachers who have communicated to me, and I've been down there, the problems with both the Linden and Salemwood schools, that I think we really need to take a serious look at some of these things and look at how we can access monies to contribute to the renovation and maintenance of those projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fallon. If I could, just from the chair, not to alarm the people, our schools aren't falling apart. The schools are fairly new. They're all within 10 or 12 years old, and you may have minor problems down there, but they're certainly not falling apart. Councilor Bucci.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's exactly what I was going to say. I know that we had a recent occurrence where there was a part of the facade had come loose, and certainly, very luckily, no one got hurt. And I do know that, Steve Melanson and his crew responded effectively, as well as the city. But what I would encourage us to do as a body, and I think, Councilor Fallon, you sit on this committee, as the safety committee, I would certainly strongly suggest, if there is a concern related to our public facilities, that information, be gathered at a public properties or, whatever the right format is, where we can have all of our facilities that are managing our employees as well as our youngsters, or for that matter, any other municipal building that may be of concern, such as the DPW that we know that has some structural issues. So, I think in the larger scope of things, I think we do need to look at that, but I certainly do want to thank the President for making sure, because we are on cable, that I want the public to know that our kids are safe. I think that we are managing through, Linden is celebrating its 10th anniversary, and we will have a fabulous celebration on the 17th of this month regarding that. But it was also one of the last schools to come online. So, I do think that our folks in the city do attempt to monitor and to address the concerns that are raised, but I would certainly highly recommend and that we work at looking at all of the issues that may be present versus just the couple that we may know about through some recent events or dialogue. And I would think Steve Melanson would be a very good member of our staff to come forward and speak to that. Because I do think you have raised concerns that may raise larger concerns that need to be addressed now that we've, in a sense, implied that there are some safety concerns. So I would certainly want to have that, or recommend as a member of the Safety Committee, that I would hope that you would encourage that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Bucci. Council Fallon.
And I'll end with this, Mr. President, thank you. And I mean this with all due respect. When a concrete slab falls down off of a school, I feel very lucky that there were no pedestrians or children outside at 1:15 in the afternoon, and that it didn't happen at the end of the school day. And I'm not going to couch this. To me, that's a building falling down. And the Salemwood School, if you go over there, it's a disgrace. There are leaks continuing from that building that have gone on year after year after year. I've walked down there many, many times. I frequent that school. It harbors the over 1,300 students, in fact, almost equivalent to the high school. And you can't walk down a hallway without walking through water or passing by a barrel in the middle of, or having the children pass by a barrel. And we're talking about a K through 8 here, walking around a barrel that's filling with water from the roof that's leaking. And those are just to name a few issues. So I think that there are larger looming problems because there has been no long-term plan to be able to maintain not just our fire departments, our police departments, our DPW, or our schools. We need to have a long-term plan to rectify all of these things. But I think that, again, I'd like to move the body to go back in and take a look at what the unexecuted bonds are. If you decide, and we decide as a body, that you don't want to move forward with reprioritizing on those, then on those particular items, then so be it. That's the process that we have. But I think at this point, at this juncture, there are other imminent problems here that I think the public is not going to be, I know that they're not going to be adverse to us looking at the safety of a school system, which goes beyond the Public Safety Committee. It is a financial matter, and this is what this motion is here for, to look at the finances, how we can come up with some finances to be able to address some of these issues. That's all. It's a simple request to look at reprioritizing. Again, if you have, I understand and respect them in each ward. I represent everyone in this community. And I respect that each ward councilor has projects based on needs assessments in each ward with your constituents. But again, the larger looming problems are the fact that we have significant, and I'm not going to couch it, celebration, that's terrific, but there are problems here that we cannot ignore. And I think we must look at trying to come up with some funds to be able to take a look at our structural issues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Fallon. Council Anderson with the first time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'm having a hard time with the way the resolve is written. As I hear the sponsor talking about it, I understand that you have pointed out, and rightfully so, that there are areas of the city that we need to be paying better attention to. I mean, I think, I guess a better reading of this in my mind would be for us to do a review of the city's building structure, to see where there are deficiencies and where we need to make improvements to our public facilities and to our public buildings and so forth. But to review the unexecuted bond authorizations, it's my sense that as bond authorizations were coming up, that there has been that kind of review that has been taking place at that particular time. If there are other things that jump out that we see now, we shouldn't ignore those things. I'm not suggesting we ignore those things, but I think to go about doing it by reneging, if we will, on already approved bond authorizations would just be the wrong thing for us to do. I think we need to be looking at, reviewing the structure, reviewing the need for better public facilities, and to improve those public facilities